Hello, everyone. We are live. Welcome to The Show Must Go On line. Today's guests are Libby and Kathleen from the Broadway Makers Alliance. How are y'all doing today?
Good.
Good. Yeah. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Happy to have both of you. It's fun to see people interacting on the Facebook page and then actually like, oh, you're humans that like we can actually talk.
Totally.
I know.
What a funky time we are in right now in so many ways, and being a maker and having a website and trying to keep up with all of that. We will get into all of that. But why don't we start with, let's get to know each of you. Let's start with your origin story. Where are you from? What got you into the business of what you're doing? I know both of you do very different things and it's awesome. So Libby, let's start with you.
Okay. So I am originally from Minnesota. You might hear a little bit of that accent, and currently living in California. And my heart is in New York, so, a little bit all over the place. And I'm a registered dietitian. I work primarily with eating disorders, but I'm also a performer. I have created an online course, and now it's turned into a seminar for health for performers, all from a non-diet approach. And so I got into that after I became a registered dietitian. My very first client was a girl with anorexia, and that got me really interested in eating disorders. So here I am 8 years later in business, running my own business. I have an employee dietitian, hiring another one, published a book last year, and meanwhile, auditioning for Broadway, doing community theater, wanting to break into that world. And then when I saw what Alyssa Hurwitz, Dr. Drama, was doing with Broadway Makers, and like, oh, you don't have to like necessarily have a physical product, but like be in the Broadway space. I love what she's doing with consulting on shows. So she talked me into joining the Broadway Makers Alliance.
Wow, that is fascinating and such a unique approach, and really goes to show that the Broadway Makers Alliance welcomes like everyone throughout all different spans of like, oh, you're related to Broadway in this way? Cool. Welcome. Come join us.
Yeah.
So cool. We will get into so much more of that. And Kathleen, why don't you give us your origin story?
Well, I am originally from Arkansas, but currently live outside of DC with my family. And I started my shop about 2.5 years ago because I was touring. And when I was touring, I worked with professional ballet companies mostly. And when I was touring, I was trying to do our schedules and our planners and stuff for the whole family because I have 2 young children. And I couldn't find anything on the market that really was about our lives. And but what bothered me the most was all the dance stickers that you found in shops had horrible technique. Like, I was like, your body can't physically be in that position. Like, this just, and I was like, I can't put that in my planner because I'm hearing these corrections all the time from the ballet mistresses or, the artistic directors. And I'm like, I can't support that. So when the company I was working for at the time, which was the Suzanne Farrell Ballet, it folded at the Kennedy Center. And so I was like, everybody had been bugging me that I should start a shop. And so I was like, okay, this is it. So January 1st, after that year, I started my shop. And I've always loved Broadway because of mostly the dancing and the singing, I mean, what's not to love about that? And I am a retired equity stage manager, but, life has taken me down a different path the past couple of years. So, yeah, that's kind of my short story.
Wow, so cool. And really goes to show with both of you that you might have like this one career path and then life takes you in a different way and you just have to go with the journey.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And that certainly for me as well, I'll give a quick intro of who I am. So I'm Shoshana, aka SHO, aka B-Way SHO. I am a trained journalist. I was a reporter on air for 2 years in West Texas with CBS 7 doing news and sports. And I had my own Trending Now segment as an anchor. So I kind of came from the journalism and the on-air reporting world and just love Broadway so much and found myself talking so much more about like all things Broadway. And, you know, especially that was when Hamilton was like really, really big. And of course now like everyone's talking about the movie, which is so much fun. But I found that like anytime a friend would like go see a show, they'd like come back and talk to me about it and like debrief. And anytime something new came up, I was like the person that would just like get so excited. And I ended up writing in like Hamilton references into my reports. It was so much fun. And of course, like only if they were like positive stories, because I would respect if it was like a serious news story. But it was just so much fun and people were enjoying all those Easter eggs. And I thought like, I have all the tools to do this by myself. Like I can film my own reports. I write them, I edit them. I'm an on-air talent. And so I drove across the country once my 2 years was up and I started BMA Show and it's been off to the races ever since.
That's so cool. I slip musical references into stuff all the time too.
I saw that on your website and I go, oh, we're going to have fun.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you say no to this?
That's true.
That's just a taste. Just you wait. So since we're talking about favorite shows, which Hamilton is like right up there, what would you say some of your favorite shows are? Kathleen, we'll start with you.
I really like some of the shows that I saw in my youth. They still stick with me today. So like Phantom, Les Mis, like kind of the classics, I guess they would be considered now, but that's what I would go. I was lucky in that my mom would take me to New York once a year and we would go see Broadway shows every year when I was in high school. So yeah, those still resonate with me. Love them.
You're so
Libby,
lucky. I didn't make it out to Broadway till I was 23, so
I didn't make it to Disney till I was 23, so you know.
Okay, so we swapped there, but I think some of my favorite. I love the Golden Age musicals are really my favorite. So 42nd Street's definitely up there. That was the first professional one I saw when I was 5, and that's what got me hooked on musicals. Thank you, Mom. I love Mean Girls. I actually auditioned for that one. Crazy for You, Guys and Dolls, Bye Bye Birdie, like a lot of those ones.
Nice. Those are all so fun. And I definitely was obsessed with musicals. Like growing up, Hairspray was the first one I saw. And kind of similarly in the sense that like anything I saw growing up and I became obsessed with, like still hold this really special place in my heart.
Yeah.
You know, and also Disney, of course. Like I love all the Disney shows that I grew up with, and now with Moana and Frozen, and it's so fun that those are being turned into musicals on stage and kind of those combinations. I guess same with Mean Girls, with being like a classic, especially during college. Like that Mean Girls was so fetch.
Yes. Stop trying to make fetch happen.
It's not gonna happen. There's a 30%. No, not gonna go into that one. But I love it, and I love that like it was always a thing where I would just like drop references into conversations, like, and sometimes I'd make them obvious and sometimes not. And, you know, a lot of times my friends growing up would be like, oh my God, we get it. You love Broadway. And now people appreciate it because it's my job. And I love that difference in attitude.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So Libby, do you find that, I don't know how long you've been making references because you said that you found Broadway a little bit later, but do you find that a lot of people appreciate them?
Yes. So it's been interesting. So I don't work particularly with a lot of performers one-on-one, But I definitely I work with a ton of college students. They've all seen a lot of the musicals, if not live, at least the movie versions or something. So I might reference something and they love it, or they're like, oh, you're into theater? Like I'm in my school play, or I'm a dancer, or, so I'm working with a lot of, at least community theater people, and then some professional dancers I worked with as well. So I definitely, those people get the references. And then, the more I've been posting on Instagram and stuff, I have a huge following now of oh, you're the theater person. So I'm now the Broadway dietitian on Instagram, and people are just loving those references.
Yeah, it's such a it's fun when you find your niche in a field that has some correlation but isn't directly in the field of being a reporter, stage manager, dancer, but also you have that experience in acting, and so you marry those two fields. Fabulous. And especially right now with quarantine, and there's been so much talk. I mean, I know for sure myself as well that some of the harder days I find myself just grabbing more ice cream and making quesadillas, and I of course am very okay with having ice cream most days, but there's a difference of I'm having this because it's a nice summer day and I'm enjoying and I want to relax, and I'm sad and trying not to think of the pandemic and the other pandemic of police officers killing Black humans unnecessarily in so many ways, and feeling that weight. And just Black Lives Matter, I always like to say it. It's a good thing to just make sure people watching know. So with all of that being said, how do you kind of, look at that?
Yeah, it's the pandemic and all the other stuff that's blown up this year. Oh my God, let's not just get into that. But it was actually really interesting, and I'm going to go ahead and hop on this opportunity to talk about how my business actually pivoted during COVID, which was totally unplanned. So particularly at the beginning, obviously none of us have been through a pandemic before. We didn't know, but so my whole business is around eating disorders, and eating disorders really thrive in isolation. The eating disorder part of the brain wants to isolate the person, and then you're stuck at home, and all the negative thoughts come in. You're next to your refrigerator, which, whether you're binging or restricting your eating, that's a huge trigger because you're stuck at home with it. You might be stuck at home with people that are triggering to you, or an unsafe environment, or you're alone and that's triggering. People going to the grocery store, not having their safe foods available, things are sold out or not being produced anymore. Or just the fear of going to the grocery store. A lot of my clients have OCD on top of everything. So the extra germophobia stuff going on. So it just blew up. And at the same time, everyone was losing their job and wasn't able to necessarily pay for services. Insurance is still crap at covering stuff. So there was actually a good 2 months where I didn't have any clients personally. And in that time, I was still talking to a lot of either previous clients or people that would find me online, and they were saying how much they were struggling. There's still, even if I can't work with them one-on-one, there's got to be something, because it's still a problem. So I started out with just kind of testing something out of offering a free support group online. And it was just for young adults, and I was inviting everyone that they needed to talk to me beforehand, but basically if you're struggling with an eating disorder, come, we can support each other. I'm not going to do one-on-one. It's just going to be a support group. And it was a hit. People loved it. They were just Venmoing me money as a donation, you're so amazing, and all this stuff. And so I decided at that same time, it's kind of when the student is ready, the teacher appears. A pop-up group on Facebook, of all places, of course, came and was here's how to start a membership group, monetize it. I'm oh, actually, this is a good idea. So I turned it into a monthly membership model. So now I have an online support group. We're currently meeting 3 times a week. We have a private Facebook group for accountability. We're starting a book club in there for eating disorder relevant type books, and just kind of helping everyone through at a lower cost than working with me one-on-one. And it's been a really awesome way of pivoting the business.
Wow. It sounds like you found the needs that people had and you matched them at the place, because I think a lot of people also don't realize that this is your business, and a lot of it's hard right now for anyone to make money, and it's hard to spend money. And so it was amazing that you started out with this way of connecting, and also people were being generous right back, and finding that business model within the struggle of trying to make sure everyone gets what they need, but also support yourself. So that's great and powerful. And thank you for doing what you do.
Well, thank you. I've been really enjoying it. I didn't think I would like groups as much as I do, but it's actually super fun for me and much, usually lower stress than the one-on-one. So it's been good.
I bet. I could only imagine that type of stress levels. And even right now, I feel like I'm a little stressed, and in the sense that I've been doing these interviews for so long, and I was like, I'm going to try out something new with my lighting. And now I'm like focused on oh no, am I glaring? Am I doing this? And it's not a big deal. But that's what we do, right? We always focus on things that are not in our control, but you want to try something new. And I've had 3 different models of how I've set this up, and every day is a new adventure. And I'm trying to get better at going with the flow, and especially in quarantine, it being it's going to be as good as it can be. And you can see the ring light on my glasses, and I've oftentimes just not worn my glasses as a result of that. And that's not really fun. I have astigmatism. I prefer to be able to see. So I feel like I like
the little things.
It's the little things. But I like to be open and honest about that during these interviews, because so many times, especially when I was an on-air reporter, it was this has to be perfect this way. And okay, we're going live in 10 seconds and you're getting ready. And you have 30 seconds to fill. Oh no, expand. You have 45. And everything was so precise, and it was great. And it taught me so much, but also a lot of people are struggling right now. And it's helpful to see that I also am going through that. And I'm not trying to be everything is perfect, we're just doing this. I find so much strength and energy through these conversations, finding out just how not alone we are.
Yeah, we're human, we're not perfect.
So true. What a journey. So now, Kathleen, let's talk about, I love this setup you've got going on. I love all the paints and the, tell us more about your business. You gave us that origin story, but going through your Instagram page was so much fun, and seeing all the different items you have there.
So I focus on the performing arts. So theater, music, dance, and sometimes anything that might fit in there that people are really struggling to find, they'll contact me. And so I'll be like, sure, synchronized swimming. I was like, yeah, I could justify that because it's kind of dancey. And so, it's to music. But so I kind of, those random things. And so I do sticker kits. I do individual stickers. I have my triple threat players, which are 7 different boys and girls. So you can choose your hairstyle and your skin color. So I offer all of that. And I work with an artist who I found about a month after starting my business. And she has been great because I cannot draw. I cannot do the clip art or draw or anything, but I know exactly what I want. So I work with her very closely, and, about, the foot needs to be turned out and we need to see the heel a little more, and, all of that stuff. So, so I work with her, and I've expanded to sell washi tape, which, you can make different fun projects with, and enamel pins and acrylic keychains. And I just bought an embroidery machine, and I'm trying to learn how to do that so I can make little paper clips for the different shows. And so, I kind of do a lot, but it's all based around theater, music, and dance. So, and I don't know.
And I love that
It's
there's so many
so
different,
it's fun.
like, sorry. delay. It sounds like fun. And all the different, like that, the last thing you posted with the, it was like a bunch of different Broadway characters on that tape. Like, do you have one that's like most popular?
Yeah. I have a couple that seem to be popular right now. The Hamilton one, clearly, and I call it Love of Broadway or Love of Theater, which is the one with all the different characters on it, and that seems to be pretty popular too. So
it looks like I'm gonna be checking that out after this again. I love all things Broadway and.
Yeah, and I love covering like boxes. Like I'll take a plain box I got in the mail and I'll just put the washi tape all over it and make it cute because why not?
Yes, why not? That is, that's also such a thing during quarantine, I feel like, which is taking things that are like ordinary and trying to see how you can spruce it up and have more fun. Like even something like this, which is just a nice glass of sparkling water. I've added blueberries and I drink it out of a chalice, and doing something like that just makes drinking water a little bit more fun.
Yes, exactly. Anything to put a smile on our faces in this time, especially.
Indeed. So have you found, either one of you can answer this first, but have you found that you've been turning towards theater during this time and like watching whatever streams they've had or stuff like Hamilton and Newsies and Legally Blonde, which are like professionally filmed? How have you been dealing with like the combination of love of theater and it not being live?
Do you want to go?
I was just going to say, I mean, I love watching them when I can. And my girls have started to watch them with me, which has been great because I might not necessarily at their age take them to the theater. I mean, they'll go see some shows, but maybe not. I wouldn't pay for the tickets for all these shows for them. And so they've been getting exposed to things that they normally wouldn't get exposed to. And I should say they are just turned 7 and 9 years old, 2 girls. So
excellent. That's awesome.
So I actually had this conversation with someone else recently, and I actually think it was Dr. Drama, but she was talking about how she was, listening to all her favorite soundtracks on repeat and watching the movies, and all of a sudden it was making her feel better. And I was like, oh, I thought that was going to be what I was going to do, but I've actually gone the opposite way. It makes me too sad. So, like, I did watch the Hamilton movie, which, great, but we saw it at the Pantages Theater in LA, and you can't beat live. So it was still fun to watch. And, I watched a couple other movies at the very beginning of quarantine, but it like almost hurts too much to watch because I want to be in it so bad. Like our local theater was going to be in Chicago this summer, and I was so ready to be in that. It was like my favorite director, and I was like prepping for it. I had my song picked. I had been practicing my Fosse, and so obviously that's not happening. And it's just like I can't, it's just too sad. So I'm kind of waiting for it to pick back up. My husband is an ER nurse, so we're both in healthcare. He's frontline seeing COVID patients, and we're like, this isn't ending anytime soon. I don't want to go to a theater as a patron or as a performer right now because it was just too dangerous. But I'm so ready for the world to go back to normal so that we can be in that theater family again. Like more than anything, I just miss being backstage with my friends.
Yeah. I totally feel that. I feel like I'm kind of in the middle of how you were saying that, and with Dr. Drama, that like I have my days that I like Hadestown is so meaningful right now, and it hits like so many parts of the quarantine journey in different words and different ways. And so if I'm feeling kind of down, it helps to have something that matches that energy and then lifts me up a little bit, because it's so beautiful and so beautifully written, and like gives you that hope that spring will come again. But yeah, it's so interesting. Like I saw the Hamill film twice, and I should mention, like, I've seen Hamilton more than I would have ever expected, and my boyfriend has seen it an absurd amount of times. It's rude. He works very hard for it, and that's like his treat to himself, but he's seen it so many times. But as I mentioned off camera, but today he's finally coming home. He's a captain of a salmon fishing boat, which is great and tough. And it's cool to, like, I'm going to be able to watch it with him now on like the big screen for the first time together. Like I saw it before, but I feel like I watched it when there was like that whole watch party, like with Twitter. And so watch parties with Twitter are very different, because you're like watching, but you're also like responding clever, and you're like, oh, fact check, or, spell check. Whereas like, I just want to watch, and I want to see Daveed Diggs singing What I Miss. And what?
This reminds me, so I tried to make it like the most theater-like experience possible when we watched Hamilton the film. So I like got an uncomfortable chair and I moved it really close to the TV.
No.
I grabbed, I had a drink with me, and I'm like sitting like, this close. I'm like, I want to feel like, we made sure all the lights were off in the house, and I'm like, I want to feel like I'm in the theater.
Yes. Wait, I love that so much. Yeah, you know what? Maybe I'm sure John and I will watch it like tomorrow, and if not by Friday. But maybe we should go get like some overly expensive drinks, and then like have a meal right beforehand, and
Totally.
Right? Yeah. I like where your head's at.
Yeah,
Nice.
make it feel like full experience.
Totally. Yeah. It's, now that you bring that up, it does make it seem like if you're gonna have a theater experience at home, try to make it the most theater experience and be immersed in it. And like right now, my phone's in the other room, because I try when I'm doing these interviews, like not to have a distraction. And it's so hard, even when I'm watching something that's like film that I've seen before, it's like easy to just default to grabbing your phone and checking Twitter, or like checking a line, and whatever it might be. Do you try in those ways, that if you're either having like a movie night or whatever it is, to try to stay in the moment?
It depends. So like for that one, I did turned our phones off. If I'm watching something with my husband, I try to put my phone away. He doesn't always. But like if I'm just watching Netflix by myself, of course I'm scrolling something. But I found the key to that though is I'm watching was it Steitzel right now? I can't on Netflix, and it's all in Hebrew. So it's fabulous, but I cannot be looking at anything else. I have to be reading the subtitles, so that is keeping me focused. So good. It really reminds me like why we need to put our phones away.
Such a good point. How about you, Kathleen?
Well, we try to watch it like a theater experience, but with two younger ones, they're constantly up and down or asking questions or commenting, and very expression, and it's great, but at the same time it's like, okay, this is what it is right now. The kids are very engaged, and that's the important part to me, is that they're asking questions, and then they walk around the house singing the songs, which is great.
Oh, yay. I love to hear that.
Yeah, I'll say all of that's happening after my 1.5-year-old goes to bed. When she's up, all bets are off. But
oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So with
I
both
wish
of
I
you
could put mine to bed earlier, but
yeah, older ones would be harder.
Right. How have you been finding the work-life balance? I saw this like absurd tweet earlier today about how much easier it is, and people might not need vacation because of this. Like, they're still working. They're still like finding. Yep. That.
Yeah.
So,
I'm not meant to be a stay-at-home mom. This is really hard. Like, my business would be doing so much better if I could put 40 hours a week into it, which is not going to happen right now.
Fair.
Yep. Yeah, and for me, the homeschooling the girls, having to take over that homeschool portion of it too, it's just, yeah. I mean, I wish I could put a lot more into my business right now, but I know I can't. And so I put as much as I can in and, keep trying to move forward and make a little progress. But, if I had thought about it and been like, oh, if I get stuck at home in a pandemic, I want to get this and this, you see those productive lists of people and everything they want to get done, and people are maybe getting one thing done, it's like, no, don't have as much time as you really think you would. So
I am so thankful.
I look forward to the day where I can. It's not my thing. My kids are meant to go to school.
I believe that. My whole life revolves around her not killing herself right now, just jumping off of furniture or something.
Yeah. The fourth grader is much better about the online stuff, but the other one's a little too young still, and so having to try to participate by video call, and that's just so weird to her.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
But I look forward to the day that we can go to Broadway Con and see other people and get some mommy time.
I bet. Right. It must have a different feeling of working when your kids are around or significant others are there and trying to like do your work, but also be there with your family, but also be productive, but also what is productive, because being productive could also mean spending more family time. It's just, I think at least for me, this has helped me reassess a lot of things and like why we're told to work so much. Like I just had this almost like a realization yesterday, which was, I was hanging out with my dog Slim, and he's the cutest little thing. And if I like spend too much time on the computer, he'll like come right in between the computer and myself and like look at me, like pay more attention to me.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that because
they're like kids.
Yeah, it's so true. And like he is loving
totally
the time of we can hang out outside and you can, post stuff to social media while I'm outside with you. And that's been amazing. But it also makes me think like when I go back to whatever, in-person reporting happens and all that stuff, to also realize that it's okay to take a day off and actually let it be a day off. And I feel like I fell into that trap a lot, which is like, oh, well, I'm not like editing a video today, so what else can I do that's like productive and, doing whatever work stuff. And sometimes it's like, no, sometimes you just take a photo just for you and, your friends, or, oh, sometimes you just go to the park and you have a picnic, and that's your day, and that's amazing. It's the tough part about your work of being your own boss, which is amazing, and I wouldn't want it any other way, but also giving yourself that time off.
Yeah, like learning to set those boundaries for self-care. Like, I preach it to my clients all day long, and it's like, oh yeah, like you need to do this too. Like, I'm actually prepping to take 2 full weeks off coming up, and it's like the amount of work just to be able to take off 2 weeks is insane.
Wow. That's amazing, though. Mazel tov. So I want to go with that and ask, because you've made your own business, but you're also an actor and in that world, how do you kind of balance the two of like, I want to keep my skills and my training up, but I also have to run this other business?
Yeah. well, during quarantine hasn't really been happening in terms of the theater stuff. I was taking voice lessons consistently through Zoom for the first couple months, and honestly, it's been a rough couple weeks for me lately. I've been having some panic attacks and just kind of feeling overwhelmed with life in general. So I just put that on pause. My dance studio closed down for most of the time. They're starting to offer some outside lessons now, but it doesn't feel right. And like this feels like the year to really get my business locked in. Mm-hmm. So I've kind of allowed myself to take the year off of theatrical training and just really put it all into the business with the hope that I can get this really like locked into systems and have more people working for me, so that hopefully next year, things open up again and I'll be able to put my energy back into theater at that point. Like it's hard, I'm in my early 30s and most people don't enter major theater stuff at this age. So I'm also very realistic in the fact of like, I can't put all of my hopes on like shooting for Broadway as the, business goal. Like this is going to be the career. Mm-hmm. I have to have this business running itself, making the money. And then, if I have time, I would like to go for that. I'm also like, I'd be really interested in directing someday too, but it has to come second, which sometimes my heart hurts, but like, this is kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah. That's so valid, and I feel you on the panic attacks, which I've had to reschedule interviews because it was just not going to happen, and I wanted to like be present, and I once didn't reschedule it, and I felt bad that I wasn't able to like be fully there because I was so anxious, and like the night before I was really anxious, and if one thing from this experience is I hope we can all be nicer to ourselves and like give that validity that like, you know what, like maybe you need to take today off and you weren't planning on that, and most people will understand and they'll be cool, and it's just something that we don't like as a society take seriously enough, that like people have panic attacks and anxiety attacks. And sometimes it's like, like a lot of people, like myself included, have like at least mini ones fairly often and know how to like push through if there's like a big event or an opening night, and you just like, you find a way to compartmentalize, but also like sitting in your feelings sometimes when this time, like you're saying, like this is the year to launch your business. This is also the year to find how you work best and treat yourself better. And it's easier said than done. And it's easier to say that to other people. But it's so important.
Yeah. Exactly.
Deep breaths.
Breathe.
Yeah.
This is where like Dr. Drama.
What?
I was just going to say, like, I've been watching a lot of Dr. Drama's videos, and she's been talking a lot about that and trying to also internalize that, like, yes, what you're saying to someone else who's on Broadway and going through that, like, it's applicable to everyone. What were you saying?
I was saying that, like all the theater training stuff has gotten pushed aside, but like been keeping up with therapy. It's very important, especially now. And I'm also so thankful that I have a job where I am considered an essential worker, and this is something people are using, and I'm not just a performer. Not that everyone is just a performer, but like I love that I am an actress, and I am glad that that is not my only career, and I'm not in the place that a lot of people are put in right now. I can't imagine what all the people involved in theater and the performing arts and arts are going through, the stage managers, musicians, producers, actors, like everybody on every level is out of jobs for the foreseeable future. And I am so grateful that I have a fallback. I don't know. I don't even know what to call
it. Yeah, that's fair and valid. And it's so hard. Like, I keep thinking about, I used to live in Hamilton Heights, and then, running your own business for the first year you don't make money and you
Yeah.
often lose money. And I was fortunate in that same way to like fall back into living with my grandma. And that like was such a blessing, and being able to like spend more time with her and not have to pay for rent, and the beauty of that actually like creating a better relationship with her that like I didn't have, and finding that like the thing that I never would have expected, that like at 28 I would live with my grandma and like love it. But I keep thinking about if I hadn't made the move earlier and I was still paying for rent right now, like it just wouldn't happen. Like, so I empathize and sympathize with so many people in the arts right now that like, how have they not canceled rent? Like, I just don't understand. There are people who like just can't pay for it. So you're going to just evict all these people? Come on. That's not, doesn't make any sense. So it's so hard. It's so hard
It
to
doesn't.
think of our friends there.
Yeah, what's really heartbreaking too is like when they post pictures on Instagram and stuff of moving out of their apartments and stuff because they're having to move away from New York City for the time being. And that's heartbreaking.
Right. And so what does that mean when theater does come back? How many people will have been able to afford to return, or, you know, have been able to stay there, or didn't get a different job, or, you know, that does really bring up so many other questions of what, you know, I hope that Broadway will look different in terms of more diversity on and off the stage, but also like a lot of people who were struggling to survive financially, like how are they going to be, you know, what are they doing right now in the theater future? There's just, you know, I don't know, there's just so much to think about, which then spirals us, and that's not necessarily helpful, but feel like we need a collective deep breath. I'm gonna just That is helpful. It is helpful to just, so what are you doing? Kathleen, let's start with you. What are you doing to take care of yourself these days?
I take naps.
Nice.
that is kind of what I've been doing. And we take walks, but that's, you know, we've been, because it's gotten bad here in the DC area again. And so we've been pretty much isolating this whole time. Haven't been out, haven't done anything. So just walking around the block at night has been kind of nice.
Right. That totally. Libby, how about you?
Pretty similar, except for I can't nap, but I've been sleeping longer hours at night. So yeah, I go to bed fairly early, even if I'm just reading in bed for a while, and then I'll sleep until the baby wakes up at like 8 or 9 in the morning. So luckily she sleeps late. And then most mornings we take a stroller walk.
That's
so
nice.
I make sure to get outside every day. That's been important. And then kind of just trying to note my personal rhythms too. Like I noticed early afternoons, like honestly about this time is like when nothing productive gets done. So allowing myself to not have to get anything done in those early afternoon hours, like know that I can work until like 1 o'clock, and then I need to take a couple hours where I can do whatever the heck I want, even if it's watching Netflix or, you know, saving the tiny human from jumping off of stuff. And then in the evening, sometimes I'll get a couple wind and start, you know, getting back on stuff, but just being okay with letting that happen and not trying to push through. Yes.
And it's good to know yourself. And I'd say that's probably the same with me. Like I try to have a routine of like, I make the coffee, I take Slim out for a walk, I promote whoever I'm having on the series for that day. Then I like take a little bit of time to like listen to music or a podcast, and then get ready and then do the interview. And I'll either like do a little bit of work right after, or if I'm like exhausted, I'll be like, you know what? I had a good interview. I had a good productive day. Like, let's take Slim out for another walk and just like enjoy nature. Cause very fortunate we have like an actual backyard here, which I know not a lot of people have right now. So I'm trying to not take that for granted and actually like enjoy it, because I think I felt so guilty about having a backyard for like the first month and a half that I just like, because I felt like so many people are stuck in like their tiny apartments or even at home and they don't have. And so it felt like, well, why should I get to do that? And then my friends who were in that situation were like, if I had a backyard, I would be in it. And I'm like, you know what? That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
So we've set up this little kiddie pool, and just like literally like a tiny little pool and like a little floaty. And I bring my comic book out there, and it's like this unexpected joy that sometimes like you got to get creative. It's very funny sitting in my little kiddie pool, but I love it.
Yep, we did that too.
Did you?
Yep. My daughter loves the pool. She'll like wander outside and like tap it more, and like want to go in it.
Yes.
I call her my little fish. She loves water. I don't get it. She loves getting baths. Like she would be in water all day if we'd let her.
Sounds like me. And that's like another thing is like I was a lifeguard. I was assistant head of the lake at my camp. Like I'm used to all of this like outdoor and either a pool or a lake or the beach. And like Kathleen, you too, like I have not left this property in a while. Like I flew out here this Saturday that Broadway closed down. So I think it was like a Wednesday, and then like left that Saturday. So, and I was not expecting to be out here this long, which like I am very grateful to have this opportunity, but I didn't like pack or, all of that stuff. So that's added this extra layer. And it's also weird because I feel like the way we're describing it is like we're respecting that we're in a pandemic, and not everyone is. And you'll see all these like pictures of people without masks and all these things. And like Libby, especially with your family, like being in healthcare, that just, how do you like center yourself and not just get so frustrated at the world?
Yeah. This was an interesting, I really want to go off on people like, just wear a mask. If you are personally friends with me on Facebook, I have a whole 7-minute rant I do on this about when I went shopping one day. And people not wearing masks or wearing them below their nose, like it's not effective. Your nose is part of your respiratory tract. But like our neighbors the other day, I lost it. And my husband had to like physically restrain me so I didn't go yell at them, because they have a band and they were having like a little concert and having people over. And he does 12-hour, my husband does 12-hour shifts at work. He got home at night and I hadn't been outside all day. And he's like, did you see all the cars in the cul-de-sac and on the street? And I'm like, no. He's like, oh, looks like someone having a party. And I'm like, oh, like I can hear our neighbors having, usually they're having like band practice or something. And no, they were like fully set up outside with their amps and everything. And they had like, I don't know how many people, I'd kind of see through the fence. And I wanted to go over and scream at them like, you're the reason we're all going to be sick for a long time, but he's like, no, like it's not worth starting a war with the neighbors. But sorry, I can go off on a much bigger rant, but like, our county is not doing great in terms of COVID cases, but like we're still fairly rural, so like there's a lot of space where we can be and not interact with people in like the big cities that you guys are in. But like, oh my God, just wear a mask, everyone. Just wear a mask. We'll be done with this so much sooner. And don't have people over, and don't.
Oh yeah,
just don't.
It feels like we're living in two different worlds sometimes. Like the people who are just like, oh, whatever, parties. And, I think there have been times where you see someone out, but they have a mask on and they're like meeting up with a friend. Like that's more understandable, because like if you're living alone for like months, like that is very tough. And if you're being like, responsible, it's hard to be like, no, don't do that. But like one other person
Yes,
Like,
and masks and everything. Like, every Wednesday I go on a walk with a friend, and we wear masks. We, don't touch each other, all this stuff. We walk down to our coffee shop that's open. We get takeout coffee, and then we walk back, and it's great. But we're not touching. We're not like having a party. We're, keeping it safe, and there's just a lot of people that aren't.
Yeah. But yeah, that is finding the ways to do something that brings you joy and human interaction without it being physical human interaction with other people you're not quarantining with. Like, that's Kathleen, it sounded like you wanted to say something too. What was that?
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, I was in the grocery store the other day. I mean, I'm sure we all have these stories, but like, there were a couple people not wearing masks, and it was so frustrating. And so I said something to the cashiers, because I know them, because I see them a lot, and they were like, "Oh, we'll go offer them masks, because we have masks upstairs," and they'll just be like, "Oh no, thanks, I'm good," and they won't take them. And I'm like, why? And my brother's an ER doctor here, so like, we know about, like, it's just
Yeah.
I felt like it was Tetris when I was like trying to avoid when you're at the grocery store and be like, oh, there are 3 people on this aisle. Okay, turning. Oh, I'll get the jam first, and then I'll circle back around.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like,
exactly.
Yes.
And like,
so here's something else that was really interesting to learn, because a lot of people are saying you can't ask why someone can't wear a mask, like ADA and all that stuff. Well, there's actually a clause. So in a pandemic, you can ask why someone is not wearing something. That's not against the rules. They do need to be wearing a mask and I don't know if this is part of that or if this is just my thing, but like, if you are immunocompromised enough that you like can't wear a mask, you would have trouble breathing, you probably shouldn't be the one going out shopping. Send someone else. Like, there was a lady in Home Goods. That's not a place with essential things. It's not groceries or anything. She's walking around without a mask, and the person at the front who I asked, like, oh, she, said she couldn't wear a mask, and I wasn't allowed to ask her. And that was when I went off on my little rant on Facebook. Yeah. But it was like, no, you can ask them. And this is not like she's going in to buy food and toilet paper. She's looking at home decor. Which, to be fair, I was too, but I was sanitizing my hands and wearing a mask. So I'm trying to, like, I'm a little hypocritical, but at least I'm being safe about it.
Right. Yeah.
They're smelling the candles. So.
Right. I mean, I feel like, especially because the pandemic's going on so long, and it's hard to see when the end is in sight. But there's like different levels of like, well, I am social distancing. I am washing my hands all the time. I am wearing a mask. Like, it's a hard thing, because you don't want to be super judgmental and you don't know other people's situations, but also we can be respectful. So we can wear masks. There are things we can do to protect ourselves and protect each other. And when we're not doing that, that's when it's,
yes,
like that's what's so tough, is like, just seeing how other countries have done it. So knowing that it is possible, right? Like, we're not alone in the pandemic. It's a global pandemic, and how other countries are like getting back to schools opening safely and things opening safely. And like, well, did you see I think it was in Tokyo, the roller coaster where they're like, scream on the inside, not on the outside.
No, I didn't see this.
No, I didn't see that.
Just scream on the inside. Pandemic 2020.
I like all the memes about, the next level of Jumanji every month. Like, what's coming. I'm like, this is like the 10 plagues, right? Like, we're getting up on Death of the Firstborn pretty soon.
Yeah, it's so scary.
Like, oh no, it's August. What's the next plague coming?
Right?
I know.
And like the killer hornets, like when they just showed up and then went away, like was that a glitch in the system?
Yeah. Are you in the Matrix? Like something's going on.
Right. It's like the Matrix meets the Hunger Games.
Yes.
Oh, what is life? What is life? Oh, I feel like we could talk about this forever, and I want to make sure to also talk about, are there any nonprofits or charities that you'd like to give a shout out to right now?
Yes, I definitely want to shout out the Broadway Body Positivity Project. I've been working really closely with the founder, Stephanie Lexus, where we're trying to create more body diversity on Broadway and in the theater community. So she's got some really great stuff going on there. So just search for the Broadway Body Positivity Project. It's at Broadway BoPo on Facebook and Instagram and I think Twitter. Really great activism work she's doing there.
Yeah, that's so important. And especially like we were talking about creating more diversity on stage, that's ethnicity and sexual orientation and body positivity. Like there's so many aspects that we need to see more diversity on stage and off stage. So that's really great and a certain follow for sure. Thank you for sharing that. And Kathleen?
I'd like to give a shout out to the Miami City Ballet School because they work with their community very closely in bringing a diverse group of individuals in, teaching them ballet and exposing them to the arts. And I was with Miami City Ballet for about 8 years before moving to DC area. So they'll always hold a special place in my heart.
Awesome.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, especially finding these like localized, like it's easy to want to, like, I feel like I've been donating to some of like the bigger ones, like the Broadway Cares, Equity Fight Saves, and the Actors Fund. And it's also good to find more like specialized, like the Okra Project and some like smaller, cafes, or like there's Zuni's Cafe, which is created by Sean Zuni. They were in Hamilton and they're creating this like Black owned space in California because there aren't like, it's so cool. So it's cool to find out of like these specialized projects and in a way, because like we've been saying, everyone's hurting. So different need is needed in so many different ways. So thank you for sharing like two very different ones, but equally important.
Yeah.
So where can people find y'all on social media? And are there any final thoughts that you'd like to share or like self-promote? Go for it. Kathleen, why don't we start with you?
My shop is on Etsy right now, but it's triplethreatplanner.com. And all my social media is at Triple Threat Planner, so it's very easy to find me. And coming up in about a month, I'll have holiday boxes available. So different Broadway shows will be available as gift kits. So it'll be very easy to shop for your loved ones for the holidays.
That sounds like fun. I will keep an eye out for that.
I remember seeing your stuff at Broadway Con. So very cool.
Yay. And Libby, how about you?
Yeah, so my website with all my services is notyouraverage.nutritionist.com. And I have two different, I'm mostly on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, but mostly Instagram. So at Dietitian Libby is my main page. And then I have at _Broadway_dietitian. That's a little more of my personal acting, but also some of my health and theater stuff together. I'm working on putting together a teaching seminar to take around to schools and theater programs for health for performers of any type, whether it's actor, singer, dancer, drag performer, comedian, musician, anyone who's on stage just dealing with different aspects of health that they don't teach you in like a school health class setting. So like digestive issues on stage and things like that. And then my book is Permission to Eat. It's a self-help book for eating disorder recovery or prevention of eating disorders. It's really aimed at young adults, but people of pretty much 13 and up have read it and all said it's very applicable. So you can find that on Amazon and most online booksellers.
Wow, amazing work. And I saw that you designed your own website, which I've also done that, and I know how hard that is, and you did a great job.
Thank you. I'm actually moving over to a new website really soon. It'll be the same domain name, but getting a professional one done. But it's been a passion project working on that website.
Nice. Yeah, sometimes it's good to like try it yourself and then be like, you know what, we're gonna take it up a notch and hire a professional.
Yeah.
That is certainly I understand that for sure. And I'm sure I'll get there with doing that one day as well. So
I'd enjoy making it yourself. I love tinkering with the website. It's fun.
Yeah, it is, and it like gives you that extra piece of like ownership. Like I did this, I taught myself how to do this, and that's really fun. I love doing that. Like in different things, like, oh, I just learned how to do this new thing, and I never thought that this would be something I would need to know. So that's cool. New skill sets. I love it.
Never thought I would learn how to do basic coding. It's crazy.
Yep. It's funny. I took a basic coding class with my journalism school, and it was funny when I was like, "Oh, this actually came in handy. Thank you, thank you, University of Maryland. Go Terps!"
Yay!
Yes, always got to give it the full thing. So y'all can find me at BWaySHO. That's BWAYSHO, as you see through this beautiful banner here that my friend Chelsea Hill designed for me. Talk about taking something that I did, which was a hand-drawn BWaySHO, and she glammed it up, and that was awesome. Big fan, big fan. And y'all can find me on Patreon if that's something you're interested in. Patreon.com/BWaySHO. We do Showtrions Unite trivia nights every Wednesday, so we have it coming up in an hour or so. And watch parties and general fun. And if y'all can subscribe to this BWaySHO YouTube channel, that would be swell. And on that note, thank you both so much for coming on and chatting. It was really great getting to know you better and hearing your stories.
Same. This is so fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay. Awesome. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you at the show.